begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. Could we please have a roll call?
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Baylor.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
All committee members are present.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion. We accept the minutes of the last meeting.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? The aye has it. Very good.
Can we do a roll call on that? I don't think I heard everyone.
Sure.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Baylor.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
The minutes pass 5-0.
Thanks. We have two items that are for public hearing this afternoon. And the process is that what we'll do is we will hear a report from the planning department in reference to the conditional use request. And then afterwards, we'll swear in those individuals that wish to testify before the committee. We'll open up a public hearing and ask for comments. After that, we'll close the public hearing. Then we'll open it up for questions between committee members and council members. And then in essence, we'll repeat that process this evening at 7 o'clock. And of course, all is invited for the 7 o'clock meeting. And then the only difference is that the committee will make a recommendation to all of council either in favor, against, or to table an item and take time. Thank you. Somebody should turn off their phone. Thank you. Those are. So with that, the first item that's up for a public hearing this afternoon is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an automated car wash facility on George Washington Boulevard south of East Waterloo. Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. GetGo Portfolio 2 LP is proposing to construct a car wash at this location. Proposed automated single bay tunnel car wash would be oriented roughly parallel with East Waterloo Road. The 3,500 square foot structure would consist of the conveyor car wash, office space, and a mechanical room. Exterior materials would consist of cement board and brick veneer, panels in gray and brown, light gray and blue palette with light gray aluminum coping and window framing. The revised circulation pattern allows for 2 lanes of queuing along the south side of the building, while 14 vacuum spaces and 6 standard parking spaces would be located along the north and west sides of the development. A single lane entry drive is provided from the existing GetGo Drive near George Washington Boulevard, and an entry-exit drive would be located further to the east. In 2015, City Council approved the construction of the convenience store and gas station for GetGo, which included the car wash as a future addition. The car wash was never built, and the plans have been modified from the original with the addition of new land for the building. Proposed change to the previously approved gas service station and car wash should have a negligible difference in its impact on the surrounding area. The attractive building and landscaping will complement the adjacent business uses, and the proposed layout meets all development requirements of the zoning code. Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you for that report, Mr. Antonucci. At this time, I'd like to ask a representative from our law department. Please swear in any individual that would like, or individuals that would like to testify before the committee this afternoon, reference the conditional use request.
Those wishing to testify, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying I do. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open up the public hearing and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use request on George Washington Boulevard, reference a car wash facility for GetGo. Please come forward and provide for us your name and address.
Good afternoon. Lee May with GetGo. I'm site development manager. Our address is 101 Cappa Drive, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have to, first of all, I know Mike gave a great summary. Wanted to see if you had any questions. I have to admit, though, I thought that I could plug in and show a presentation. I did email it. I don't know if it went through. Oh, okay. It's a few slides, just kind of give an overview of the project, what the building would look like and things. So I'll go through this fairly quickly, and then if you have questions, we could always drop back to some pictures or something. But again, this is just an introduction of myself. My engineer wasn't able to make it. It's MDM surveyors and engineers out of Pittsburgh. Next slide is, this is an overview. That's going to be hard to see. I think the next one would probably be a better picture, because this one just is like the general area of the city where it's located. This one's a better picture. This shows the existing Get-Go, the C-store closest to the corner, the long, since it's kind of small, the long rectangular structure is the canopy. What's shaded in that blue color is the area where you would like to add the automated car wash facility. And we can go to the next slide. Oh, and I should also point out some of the environment around here. It's forested or undeveloped to the east and to the south, and beyond that to the south is some multifamily residential, and then of course the other corners of the intersection are all commercially developed. The next slide is, this is kind of just an overview. I think Mike hit most of these. I just want to point out, well, we'll look at the site plan, but we have 2 queuing lanes. There's 14 vacuum spaces for self-serve vacuuming. And then we have 6 regular parking spaces for employees, or maybe there's a service technician there or something that wouldn't want to park in a vacuum space. We have some general spaces. And then our refuse container, or for the dumpster, is screened to match the adjacent one at Get-Go. And this property is about 1.3 acres, and the car wash building is a little over 3,500 square feet. So on the next slide is, this is the zoning, which we've already touched on. The next one is, really, this is all the statistics for this development, more of the I'll call it the bulk table for the zoning. I won't read all these, but I'll just note that we're not seeking any variances for the development. We can meet the zoning requirements. And then the next slide is for the parking, where it's just basically, to summarize this slide, we meet all the dimensional requirements, and then the quantity of 20 spaces required, and we provide 20. Of those 20, 14 are vacuum spaces. The next one's the site plan. I don't know if you can zoom in a little bit on just the site, because I don't think anybody wants to read all those notes at the bottom. If not, I can kind of describe it. So this is what goes across, or to the left corner, upper left corner of the site is, we've called it George Washington Boulevard, but I believe it's Massillon Road. And this is where and across the top of the page, that is where the existing entrance to the Get-Go is. We plan to just share that same entrance and not create a new curb cut. So you can enter the car wash site or go to Get-Go from that same access. Where we have there across the lower part of the site portion, moving from left to right, that is the queuing lanes. We have 2. We have capacity for quite a few vehicles there. And the reason we have 2 lanes, one is for our subscription members. So you can, for a monthly fee, you get unlimited car washes, and the other lane is for the general public, just making an on-the-spot purchase. After they proceed to the kiosk, then they merge into one lane to enter the car wash building on the right side there, which would be the east side of the plan. And it's a conveyor system, so the mechanics of the wash control the speed at which a vehicle traverses through it. And then upon entering there on the west side, you can either leave or choose one of the vacuum spaces. There's a vacuum on each, they're aligned with the stripes of the spaces, so if you're on your driver's side, you can use that one to clean that side of the car, or On the passenger side, you can vacuum from that side. The vacuum spaces are free, so there's no type of payment or anything with those. And then the dumpster enclosure is in the upper right corner of the site, right next to the existing Get-Go one. We thought they might be happy together there. And then the next slide is, this is the plat. It's a little confusing to look at, but basically I'll describe what we're doing. When the Get-Go was initially developed, they purchased a portion of the property from Barton Holdings. Now with this car wash, we do need a little more additional property, so we're going to purchase about another acre and then create a separate parcel for both the Get-Go and the Wet-Go. And then on the next slide, we have, finally have some color here. We have some building elevations. And I gotta pull my glass out. Let me see here. So the top one is the entry side to the car wash. And then the bottom elevation is for the exit side. We vary the height of the building just to give it a little more character. There's some also some variations in the depth, so it's not a simple rectangle to kind of enhance the building. And then the next page is the longer side elevations, where on the side facing the Get-Go, we'll have windows where you can see a car go through the wash. The back side facing the queuing of the vehicles is, there are a few windows, but it's it's more the mechanical side, so there's less features to show there. The next slide is the landscaping for this site. I know it's a little hard to read from this perspective, but I know staff has given some input. And then the last one is the photometrics, where we're meeting the lighting code for the city. That is a real quick run through. If we'd like, we can go back and discuss any portion of that in greater detail, or if there's any other questions I might be able to answer.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you for attending. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of the conditional use request for car wash on George Washington? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone against? Very good. We'll close the public hearing portion of this and open up to questions from the committee. Ms. Mosley?
Thank you. A few questions for you. There's another car wash that sits in close proximity, Soak City Car Wash. So my question is, how do you think your business will prosper with Soak City being so close in proximity?
Well, it is a competitive world, so we think we offer an awesome car wash experience. And another thing is, I think this is important, is that we have the Giant Eagle supermarkets, we have the Get-Go convenience stores, and the Wet-Go car washes. And there's a seamless perks or loyalty program between them all. So when you purchase any item at any of the locations, you earn these points, so you get free gas or free food, or you can apply it to car washes. So I think it's the loyalty of our customers. We have a great customer base, and the subscription program is very popular because you just pay once, and anytime you feel you need a wash, you just drive through with it works with like a transponder, much like the Easy Pass tolls.
Okay, and one more question. Because you're on 224 and the traffic is fast moving, so the entrance will probably be on the side of George Washington where you have, I think it's Oak Creek Apartments and then the Washington Homes. Will it constrict the traffic coming from both of those residents' parking? How far will you go down into those areas? Or you won't constrict their traffic at all?
No, this is there's no new curb cuts. This is using just these, where you enter the get-go
Right,
now,
right,
that's where you'll come in that entrance to
Okay.
get to the.
So,
car
but it
wash.
won't come off of 224?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Further questions from any committee members? Any council members have any questions or comments? Mr. McKittrick?
I'm just curious on a couple things. I think within the last year, we had a car wash come before us on Waterloo in Firestone Park. And I know that was, it wasn't passed. And I know that they had a list of other car washes that were nearby. And I'm just wondering if that wasn't passed for another reason. But even beyond that, I have a concern. I was wondering if, when this was built initially and was passed, was there a traffic study done for that area? And if in fact, was there an additional one that was done? Because I'm very, very familiar with that. In fact, I was at the get-go earlier today, and that intersection on George Washington there, they reconfigured it because there's so many accidents. I probably see an accident there at least once a week. People pulling in and out of the businesses there, and I'm concerned whether this is going to increase the volume of traffic in and out of that footprint. And also being familiar with the business itself, when they get deliveries, that entranceway that comes in off of George Washington, you'll have semi-trucks that block that intersection, or the means of egress back to the pumps, and so you have people going around the trucks and cars coming the opposite direction. And if you add this car wash, I don't know how they're going to deal with that issue with when they have trucks making deliveries that are blocking that particular means of egress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKittrick.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It sounds like that's an issue with the delivery trucks with or without the car wash. So when we introduce the car wash, where those trucks are parking, they may block that access. To be honest, I will have to look at our approved site plan for that. If it does not show a loading space for the get-go, we will need to make sure we provide that. Because you're right, those are large trucks that make those deliveries. There's some smaller ones as well throughout the days, but the main delivery is a large truck. And as far as the wet goes, the deliveries are really just for the cleaning material, so it's a much smaller delivery truck. But in our interest, we're going to want to make sure we address a better location for those trucks to park, or if they're not parking where they're supposed to for the deliveries, begin to enforce that. Because we incorporate loading spaces into our layout so that it doesn't disrupt business, or actually it would deter customers if they don't feel comfortable maneuvering around them.
Okay. Okay, Mr. McKittrick, you all right? Any more questions? Okay. So on your site plans, you do designate a specific area for delivery? is what you're
On our
saying?
get-go ones, we do. No, we don't on the wet-go, because it's much smaller delivery truck.
Sure, yeah.
It's very little.
But you do in terms of the get-go
Yes,
side, the
on the
gas
get-gos,
and
yeah.
convenience store side.
Right. Now, I did not work on the get-go that's there now. I've looked at that, and I could probably pull up that plan on the computer, but it's something I'm going to look at
Okay,
right away.
good. If you can get back to us.
Yeah,
let us
there's
know.
our standard practices. We
Sure.
do include a delivery space and a
good.
ramp and the whole system, because deliveries can be challenging, and especially with this, and not only for and I'm really referring to the food and products for the store, but we also do the truck turning radius and auto turn and everything for the fuel deliveries as well.
Gotcha.
And make sure that when the fuel truck stops to make a fuel dump, that they're not blocking access in
Very
any
good.
direction.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any trees going to be taken down as a result of this? It didn't look like that on on the slide that you had shown us, but just curious if any trees were going to be removed?
I did not include the stormwater management slide. There could be nothing significant. There could be a few more of the scrappy ones there at the edge. They need to be
Yeah, we
removed.
try to make sure that at least there's a equal amount that's removed and that, you know, an equal amount that's replanted. So we'd like that kind of commitment.
Right.
But that would be something to talk about too, perhaps.
But that existing buffer of trees, that's...
Yeah, no, I understand. That buffer is very nice, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, that's a good natural
Cool, yes, absolutely.
between the two different uses.
Agreed, thank you. Further questions or comments from anyone? Very good, we'll invite you back this evening, sir, at 7 o'clock. After the public hearing at 7, we'll then make a recommendation to all of council.
Okay, should I make better preparations to present something, or your suggestions?
Yeah, we can meet after this meeting. and
Okay.
We can
All right.
talk.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, the next public hearing that's up is a conditional use to construct a Starbucks on East Waterloo Road, east of George Washington Boulevard. Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Butterfly Holdings is requesting permission to construct a Starbucks at this location directly east of the Chipotle Mexican Grill. Prior to the development of the Chipotle property in 2018, the property was replatted into 2 separate parcels with the intention of developing this property in the future. The proposed development for this property will include a 2,230 square foot building with a drive-through pickup window on the west side of the building, seating for approximately 30 people inside, an outdoor patio with seating for 12 on the south side of the building, and parking for 48 vehicles to the north, east, and south of the building. The exterior facade would include materials constructed from an arrangement of 4-inch gray brick, gray ephes, and vertical wood siding placed over the canopy on the south, west, and east elevations. Submitted site plan depicts landscape buffers of at least 5 feet fronting the property line and a minimum of 10 feet from each side yard. Ingress and egress would be from an existing access drive constructed for the Chipotle in 2018. The new restaurant would employ approximately 18 full and part-time employees. Hours of operation would be from 5:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. Planning staff's of the opinion the proposed Starbucks development would not be out of character with surrounding uses, should not have a negative impact on this area. Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Antonucci, I'd like to ask a representative of our law department, please step forward and swear in any individuals that would like to speak before the committee.
Thank you. Those wishing to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying, I do. I do. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now open up the public hearing portion and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak in favor of the proposed conditional use on Waterloo Road. And please provide for us your name and address. We certainly appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Gary Onesti. My address is 3100 30100 Chagrin Boulevard. I represent the ownership here, Flycor. I am Gary Onesti, and I'm Vice President of Development and Facilities. I do have some handouts here, if I may. Mike, how many do you need? Happy to do it. Okay.
Thank you.
So we are in agreement with Mike's assessment and summary of the project. This was looked at a couple of years ago when Chipotle was built, so most of what you see here on paper is part of what was past development with the Chipotle, and the addition of Starbucks now kind of completes that. The stormwater management, a part of that, the traffic reports that were completed were a part of that included this. Essentially, we're following exactly, with some minor modifications, when I say minor, I mean just where parking lots fall and so on. Minor modifications to the exact plan that was put forth. No real changes. Access is from 2 locations. Stormwater management takes into consideration both the existing and the new site. Landscaping will comply with all city requirements. We're not looking for anything other than the conditional use at this point.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ask if there's anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this proposal on East Waterloo Road. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against? Anyone? Very good. We'll close the public hearing portion at this time and open up to questions from any committee members or anyone at this time. Ms. Mosley?
Real quick question for you. On your drive-through traffic flow, because you know sometimes the traffic at Starbucks in the morning could get really congested, do you foresee an issue with cars being on 224 waiting to go through the drive-through?
No, I do not. What we've tried to do here was to apply what is the most recent thought process behind the drive-throughs. During COVID, everybody went out and got their coffee and never went into Starbucks or to any coffee place, whether it was Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks or Gary's Coffee. Wouldn't that be nice? But you had just cars everywhere. So from that perspective, while that's changed a little bit and has softened the issue, what we've tried to do was provide, based on our discussions with our tenant, and that's Starbucks, the appropriate stacking distances, so we were there. We don't want to see any of those kind of things happen. It's not appropriate to have any cars out into the roadways or into drive aisles. That sometimes can occur, but what we've tried to do was to eliminate that under normal conditions.
It
Okay,
certainly does.
thank you.
Ms. Mosley? Anyone else on the committee? Very good. Mr. Malik?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a similar question, just because in my ward, we have a Starbucks that is very popular at the corner of Market and Pershing, and we have had this particular problem, which is that we have traffic backed up on Market very regularly. It's a kind of very constant point of concern, and often residents ask me why we can't fix it, and part of it is because it was a question for when the zoning was changed. And so I think it's important that we, be very clear at this point that we're not creating an impact, particularly because it is at that intersection. And you did address the question, so I don't want to ask it again, but I guess for you, but also for Mr. Antonucci, is there any supporting information that could be provided as to some of the calculations that you did and, the reasonable number of cars that you expect to see, and how we can be assured that there won't be regularly traffic backed up on 224?
I can give you what we as a developer have done historically with the Starbucks we have developed, and then I can relate to this one. I believe we have 15 cars in this stacking, and then in addition to that, access to the stacking lane or to the drive-through lane will wrap around the project. So it's not going to go out into any of the roadways, whether it's Waterloo or whether it's 224. That isn't the intention. That's the reason we positioned it the way we did. A few years ago, before COVID, we developed a Starbucks in Canfield, Ohio. And one of the problems that we had as part of that development was we had two-way traffic occurring in both locations. And what was happening when COVID came was that the cars were backing up, they were stacking, and then they were literally going out. But there wasn't enough distance in the parking lot. So we changed the drive-through lanes so that we made them both in the same direction, meaning if I wasn't going to come to the drive-through, I could get through the process by going forward and coming out. So we changed drive-through lanes and we changed stacking distance lanes so that we had through traffic occurring, so that it wasn't backing up. It took, 6 months to figure it out, but what we did was try to address that. Now, we work with Starbucks on all these to make sure that we do that appropriately. And there are always going to be little kinks in the process, but what we do is they'll come back to us based on COVID and ask for more stacking, more distances, more of those things, because they recognize the same thing you do. It's not good business to have that issue. It just isn't. And that's why we've tried to develop it. We're constantly looking at it and trying to address it from the standpoint of a developer. But in addition to that, we're also being asked by folks like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, whomever we're dealing with, to address it appropriately too. And with their help, we can do that. I don't anticipate any issues here.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Antonucci, can you kind of speak to how planning thought about this particular issue when reviewing this?
Right, so, they're using the same, curb approach that, the Chipotle is using also. Traffic engineer did review it, didn't have any big concerns on it, and there is a condition that the traffic engineer would need to approve the, locations of access and, ingress and egress for this. That's a condition of the conditional use ordinance. So we feel that the way this is laid out is the stacking works, and the traffic engineer, again, could take another look at it, but we could do that, so.
Okay.
Thank you, and I don't know if we're going to vote on this today, but I guess the one consideration I would have is if we have some more time to talk about this, I wonder if there are any conditions that we could put that if it turns out that traffic far exceeds what we expect, that maybe there's some way that we can re-review, because again, I'm dealing with an issue in my ward where, our hands are kind of tied at this point. The development is done, and we have, the constraints that we really can't fix, and so I just want to be mindful of that.
Thank you for bringing that forward. I have a couple questions. First of which is, without the aerial shot, as I mentioned before earlier, you may have heard me, but what we're trying to do is, in our city, is at least stay even with our tree canopy. So I don't know if any trees are going to be removed or not, but if I remember that parcel, there's not a whole lot there.
I believe that's all been done. Any trees that were removed have been removed. I don't think we have any tree removals, just planting new trees.
Right, yeah. So we want to be mindful of that, number one. Number two is the traffic, again, to talk about traffic, not stacking. My concern is on 224 there. I assume, and I'm guessing, I don't know, that entrance that's on Waterloo Road there, 224, that's only a one-way in. I mean,
That's
I guess
correct.
if you're heading east, you're not going to be able to turn
It's right in, right out.
into the, because
Yes,
that's
sir.
kind of close to that light, and I'm fearful of that. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
it's a right in, right out. That'll make a difference.
That's going to be right in, right out. Okay, perfect. And I like the way, because it almost looks as though you have an access road there with a Chipotle next door there, and that's very good. But I was very concerned about that access.
That
from,
will serve to
heading
pick
east.
up, that access road you just referred to, it was part of Chipotle, will serve to pick up some of that traffic, additional traffic that's waiting, that could be potentially waiting in the drive-through to get through Starbucks.
No, absolutely. No, I like that. And of course, the access there on George Washington, I believe that's going to be, I can't remember if that's restricted or not. I don't think it is.
No.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. It's mostly the 224. So that's good to hear. As long as we make note of that, make sure that happens. And it's very well marked and clear, so that, we don't see a problem there, because speeds can get quite high. So thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, very good. Invite you back this evening at 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the balance of the agenda now, and I'm going to recommend that we take time on 3 through and including 10. Item number 11 here is ordinance reference sale of city-owned land located on east of Rhodes Avenue, west of Bell Street, and south of Maple Street to Hovanian, I hope I did that justice, Ohio Operations Limited Liability Corporation.
Shamus, is there something wrong with your microphone? It keeps dropping on me.
I haven't been here for the last few weeks, so I'm blaming someone else.
No, we came here a couple weeks ago to bring this to the council. It is a sale of infill housing out and around the zoo. I believe Councilman Malik had some questions for us, and since that point in time, we've gone back, had some more discussions, and we feel one of the questions was about meeting quote-unquote green standards as far as the housing goes. What I can say is that this project goes above and beyond the city standards. We did some Googling and some other research into green standards, what is considered it, and it seemingly would about double the cost to construct these houses, and, putting them in the $450,000 to $500,000 range to construct. So that is, we don't think that's really an option here. The other question, I think, was about affordable housing. It's not required to be affordable housing, but with any other housing project, if the developer would want to put affordable housing in there, we would work with them through our CDBG funds to make that work.
Have they expressed any interest in there being affordable component to this housing?
David, you?
Yes, they have. It's just a matter of finding available funding for them.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions or comments? Ms. Mosley?
Sean, when I look on the back of this, the breakdown of the square footage and how much is being sold for, under the acquisition method, it has some that says potential acquisition, so we don't own those ones yet?
I don't have that I don't have that in front of me right now, so I'll defer to David.
That is correct. We are currently working on acquiring some of these properties. There's some tax delinquent vacant parcels on that list. There's also a private transfer between the city and Summit County Land Bank, as well as some parcels we are acquiring from the Akron Zoo.
Okay. And the last question, is there any possibility that this will tie into whatever we're going to do with the Interbelt project? Because I know we've decommissioned and they're fielding questions about what to do with the Interbelt. It's in very close proximity. So I'm just trying to see if there's going to be some kind of tie-in with that. As far as
I don't believe so, because the portion of the Interbelt that has actually been vacated, I don't think is that close to this property. And Jason can correct me, I guess, if I'm wrong on that, but the entire Interbelt was not vacated.
So we're talking about the end of Edgewood where like the zoo is at, where the tennis courts are at, right? That's where we're talking further down. That's the footprint, correct?
The footprint will be east of Rhodes Avenue. Anything west of Rhodes, like where the courts are, is going to not be part of this.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
You see the nap, or the map, the nap, I don't know what I was thinking. The map, because, yeah, it does kind of like Rand Street is close to there. So, okay, very good. Are you okay? You all right? Anyone else have questions or comments? All right, is there a recommendation for approval? Do we have to suspend? No, I don't think so.
You're on your third reading, so it
All
doesn't
right,
need to be
I thought so.
suspension of the rules.
Okay, good. Is there a favorable recommendation? Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? Very good. The ayes have it. With that, going to recommend, although, Mr. Antonucci, we spoke about this one previously. It's the one on Mull Avenue. Would it be okay to put that on the consent agenda, you think? Or should we just withdraw that or continue time?
I would just suggest withdrawing.
Withdraw.
The petitioner has actually gotten approval through BZA to vary the setback for
Okay.
a single-family house
Good.
at that location. So, yeah, he's fine to withdraw that request for the apartment
Very good.
development.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. I will confess something to you right now. I don't know where it's at on the agenda, though. I just remember us speaking, it's number 40 and
39, the
39 and 40.
apartment development.
Okay, very good. We'll file 39 and 40 then. Thank you. We'll move into the new list of legislation, of which we have one item. This is a longie. Do you want me to do this one, Sarah Biviana, or you want to do it? Okay, you do it. Your voice sounds better than mine.
Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to negotiate, enter into, execute, and deliver agreements and/or other documents in connection with the sale and development of 959 Dayton Street, Akron, Ohio, 44310, consisting of approximately 2.73 acres of city-owned land located between Pitkin Avenue and Dayton Street in the North Hill neighborhood, existing as Summit County parcel number 6708941, authorizing the sale of said property to Crossy Homes Incorporated, determining said property is not needed for public use, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. This is Mr. Lombardo, your district. Is there someone here
Thank
wishing to
you.
speak on this?
Absolutely, I figured out the microphone, so I'm proud of myself. This is actually a project the council approved in 2018. It's a sale of land, the old Harris School, for housing, single-family development. Since that point in time, obviously, it became kind of a COVID pandemic, hold for a couple years there. We are back on track. The big difference between this and what you approved in 2018 is we added about 0.8 or 0.9 more acres to the sale, and he added 4 additional homes to the sale, or to the development, and this will all be, all 16 homes that are scheduled for this will all be affordable housing.
Mr. Lombardo, or is there any board members have any comment? I'm sorry, committee members? Okay, Mr. Lombardo.
Okay, thank you. You said 16 houses?
16, correct.
Yeah, okay, that's right. Do you know if there's, so I know the lay of the land, obviously, but there's a higher elevated land, piece of property, I would say, connected. Will there be any type of house there or playground there? Or is there any consideration been given to, because there is an existing playground. Obviously, it was a school, but you would think with that little development that there would possibly be a playground involved there.
We agree with you. So the way this is structured is we would ideally like 16 homes there in the northeastern corner that's elevated, as you stated. Depending on how the topography and everything else lines up, we're trying to preserve a small corner of that for a playground. That will be completely at the city's discretion. We just need to write a letter to Mr. Crassy, and then we can acquire that land from him.
Right, okay. Thank you. I've met with Mr. Crassy a few times, so yeah, the layout looks great. It's just, getting started. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions or comments from anyone? Very good. This is exciting news. New construction in the North Hill area. And so with that, if there's no questions or comments, is there a recommendation for suspension of the rules with a favorable report?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Against? Very good. The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, this committee is adjourned till 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, we will be reviewing the capital budget once again. We'll let everyone know we have a hard stop at 6 o'clock. And so we'll try to be mindful of our time. And I'm going to turn it over to the clerk.
Our next committee will be the Rules Committee, and that will begin at 2 o'clock. Those committee members are Freeman, Fusco, Amobian, Connor, and Malik. Again, that's the Rules Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Thank you.